Before we start the show, I just want to let you know that this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. Welcome to Millennial versus Machine, my story on how I got someone else to pay off my student loan debt using real estate investing, now remixed into conversations about real estate, life, business, and everything in between. Let's dive into today's episode. Hey everyone, it's Courtney here with another episode of Millennial versus Machine. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you are saying to yourself, wow, she sounds a little nasally, it's because I am. I'm on the mend. I had a little bit of a bug, but we're moving and grooving this week. I'm so excited to be here. Last week, we finished our series, which we're in season 5. But we finished our series on A Broker's Heart, and it was my heart to you, to all the real estate brokers and agents that are listening, just to share like what a broker is, what they do, and my heart as a real estate broker, hopefully your favorite one. And so today we are going to start off. I'm not even going to call it a series, honestly, because I don't know where we're going. So buckle up, hang on tight. We're going to have a good time. But I want to talk a little bit about real estate investing in 2024. Now, this is probably going to be part 1. We'll do part 2 next week. But where my mind goes is if you are on social media, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all of that, you know, we've seen waves of different fads and trends and everything in between, you name it, right? If you go to the internet, you're going to see it. you're going to find it, and you're probably going to be like, what in the world? And so I want to talk a little bit about real estate investing in 2024. And if you guys recall from last week's episode, I was talking about systems for professional development. And one of the things that I talked about was like verify, right? Even I encourage you to verify even everything that I talk about on this podcast. Yes, it's rooted in my experience, but you always want to do your due diligence, okay? And so this theme of this season 5, really has been systems. So I want to start off with a little bit of a story time, and it is my desire that in sharing this story with you, that you can glean some nuggets and just make sure that you have everything in order before you start investing in real estate, okay? So here we go. Buckle up. So this individual has been in Texas for about 2.5 years. And they decide that they would like to invest in residential real estate in a major Texas city. And so they find an agent, and that agent helps them locate different potential investment properties. And so that's what they do. They find a small portfolio of about 4 properties that were all under about $300,000. Okay. And to give you the breakdown, each of these homes were probably, first of all, pretty close to a major downtown area. They were all built in like the 1920s and 30s. They, some of them had tenants in there. Actually, I think maybe all of them had tenants in there. And I don't even recall what like the rents or anything were in that area. But the homes were very dilapidated. Okay. So they make offers on these homes, and the offers are accepted. And kind of cautionary tale number one is this individual did not opt to get an option period, which is typically like a time for a buyer to inspect a home, negotiate repairs or concessions in lieu of repairs, or all of that, right? A lowered price, whatever, right? Those negotiations happen during the option period. And so they didn't have that, okay? They could still get an inspection done, but they didn't have that, okay? The second piece of this cautionary tale is that this person was going to finance this purchase using hard money, and they're also going to finance the rehab using hard money. Okay? Follow me? So now I'm just throwing a general number out there. It's pretty close to what the price was, but now this individual has 4 homes under contract for, let's say, for round numbers' sake, $250,000 each. Okay. So then we're further into the deal, and some things happened. And I'm intentionally being vague, guys. But what you need to know is that this individual says, "Hey, I do not want to buy these homes." What did they say? They didn't say I do not want to buy these homes. They said, I don't want to pay I don't want to give any earnest money or option money until I'm actually able to see the homes. Okay. And so that's where I come in. And, that's where I get to talk to this buyer directly. And I look up the properties, I pull my comps, I'm brought in almost as a guide, like, "Hey, Courtney, what should we do about this?" Right? And so I do my due diligence, and I pick up the phone, schedule a call with the buyer, and I first take just a very curious approach. Okay. One of my favorite quotes is, "You can't be curious and offended at the same time." Not that I was offended, but I am curious naturally. And so I was curious, and I asked this individual, and I said, "Hey, so tell me a little bit about this. I see that you're under contract on these 4 homes, and kind of tell me, are you from this Texas city, or, is this, are you growing your portfolio? Kind of give me a little bit of your background." And so this individual says, "Yeah, I've been in this city for the last 2.5 years, and no, this isn't my first investment property." I said, "Okay, great. Well, can you tell me a little bit about your other investments?" And this person says, "Well, I have some Airbnbs outside of the state of Texas, and I've been doing that for a while, and it's been very profitable for me." And I'm like, "Okay, great. Tell me, how many properties do you have that you own and rent out right now?" And this individual says, "I don't have any." I said, "Okay." I said, "Great." So I said, "So tell me, what is your plan for these 4 properties?" And this individual says, "Well, I'm going to get rid of all of the tenants because right now the homes are not habitable, and I am going to start rehabbing them." My response was, "Okay, great. Now tell me, what's your rehab plan? Do you have contractors? Do you have, do you have your team in place?" And this person says, "Well, no, but I've been talking to some people." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Okay." I said, well, first of all, I asked, I said, "Can I be totally honest with you right now?" And this person says, "Yes." I said, "I would not buy these properties." And this person was a little bit surprised. Well, I sensed that this person was a little bit surprised. because this person got a little quiet. And I said, and I actually took a moment to plug my book and my podcast. I'm like, if you want to know like all the reasons why I'm telling you this, here's my book, here's my podcast, like listen to it, right? I give you the entire blueprint, okay? Now let me back it up a little bit and I will give you the conclusion of that story here pretty soon. But this is what alarmed me and why I'm like, oh my gosh, Courtney, you have to talk about this, right? Because I low-key almost called myself an OG in real estate investing. I feel like I've been in this game for a long time between my experience as a kid growing up in this industry and as a licensed agent and broker. But, first of all, if you are seeing different like get rich quick things, I'm not even gonna call them schemes, plans, courses, online, that should be a yellow flag. And I'm not calling it a red flag intentionally. It should be a yellow flag, okay? Because you don't want to dive into a large investment like that. And I'm not even talking about a solely monetary investment. I'm talking about time, energy, money, right? All of these factors. You do not want to do that quickly, right? In the sense of without a true plan and a true team, okay? So let's back it up. If you are listening to this podcast episode and you have done an Airbnb, meaning you have leased one or more apartments or condos or homes to then put it on Airbnb, then to me, and this is no disrespect, that is not real estate investing in the traditional sense, okay? Because at the end of the day, I mean, like, you don't own the asset at all. Not to mention, especially in Texas, there are a lot of promulgated leases, like those forms that have very strict prohibitions when it comes to essentially subletting it, because that's what you would be doing. So that's number one. And so for this individual, the reason why I really wanted to remain curious at the start is because I needed to know at what level of experience they were at the time of signing these contracts for these homes, okay? And so understanding that, what I told this individual is if this is your first time investing, like actually purchasing a property to now be the official landlord, because remember, if you're just renting an apartment, and let me back it up, because I don't want to like minimize that, right? It may work for some people, right? But if you are renting an apartment to then put on Airbnb, remember, you don't have those traditional landlord expenses that the actual landlord has, okay? It's a totally different game than what I'm talking about and like what my book and everything goes back to, okay? And so for this individual, I said, one of the reasons why I said I would not buy these properties is because you have to think, if you are doing something for the first time, like purchasing a home to renovate, you probably want to start off with something that's a little bit newer, okay? So for this individual, I told this person, I said, if I were you, I would, number one, not buy these 4 homes that were essentially teardowns, okay? So remember the specs, guys? Built in the 1920s and 30s. They were all between 2 and 3 bedrooms and 1 bath, about 1,200 square feet each, right? The one thing that they had going for them was a location, but even then, hit or miss, right? But remember, if you are dealing with a property with those specs, you can almost guarantee that you have galvanized steel plumbing, okay? that tends to rust out over time, headache, okay? You might have old wiring, and then again, depending on, if the wiring and stuff the electrical isn't up to date, then you're potentially having to replace an electrical panel and rewire the property. And that's a whole nother expense, right? Knowing that labor and materials and everything has gone way up, right? That's really important. So I told this individual, I said, hey, rather than looking where you're looking, it would be wise to look in, X, Y, and Z cities where you can find something that's still relatively reasonably priced and that's built in the 80s or the 90s. Okay? So think about this, guys. You got to walk before you crawl, right? I mean, I'm sorry. You have to crawl before you walk. There you go. It's the bug that I'm getting over. You have to crawl before you walk. And so to dive deep into a significant rehab, and you guys, if I'm honest, the rehab on each of those homes would probably be around $150,000, okay? Each, okay? So, imagine you're spending $250 on the house and then another $150 on the rehab, and you're using hard money. Oh my gosh. And then you're having to pull permits in this city, and y'all know these city governments are extra slow, some more than others, right? With inspections and issuing the permits and all of that good stuff. So it's just like, wait a minute, we got to take a step back, right? And this individual seemed very appreciative when I said that. And I listed off like all the cities that I think they should look in based on my own experience. Like in every city that I mentioned to this individual, I either managed or owned rentals in those areas, right? So like I know what I'm talking about here. And so that was that, okay? The second thing that I wanted to highlight in this story is I had to ask this individual about their team, okay? You guys remember from season 1 and from my book that your team can make or break an investment, okay? Be it property management company, which you guys know, I owned a property management company for many years. That's what actually clothed and fed me for most of my childhood, my family's company. And so like that can make or break an investment, right? I told this individual, I'm like, man, finding a really good plumber in this city that is consistent over time is so hard, right? If you don't have a few plumbers, a few general contractors, right? A few electricians, like in your Rolodex, in your phone, right? That you have a relationship with, right? You are not ready to take on a rehab of this magnitude. Okay? So that's the next thing. Okay? So we talked about like the first part, which is like locating the right investment and crawling before you walk, right? But then having the team. Okay. And I'm not giving these things in order. Honestly, I think that the team obviously comes first before you actually start locating homes, right? Or multifamily investment opportunities. But just walk with me here, okay? The second piece is I said, hey, what is your plan from a financing perspective? Okay. And this does coincide with team, right? Because whoever you're using to fund the project, right? If you are using a HELOC from your primary residence or not a HELOC, a home equity loan, right? Or, you're going to use hard money. You have to have a plan. And I told this individual, if you were to buy this small portfolio of 4 properties, okay, you do not want to give every single tenant a 30-day notice at the same time. And this individual said, well, why? I said, because you are now going to have 4 vacant properties that essentially become money pits because you have no income coming in. So now that debt service, which is everything that you're having to pay to the hard money lender, that's on you now because you have no income coming in. And this person said, well, Courtney, the homes aren't habitable. And I said, I realize that, but you want to be very strategic when it comes to how you play this. Would you rather have one vacant unit, rehab that while the other 3 are bringing in money, and then you can rent the one that's fully rehabbed for significantly higher, probably triple or quadruple what the tenant was previously paying? Then you allow that to cover your debt service? And this individual said, that makes sense. And then also a part of that, if you are looking at an investment property that is currently tenant occupied, and this is what I told the individual as well, there are rental registration programs in a lot of the major cities across Texas. And what does that mean? That means the city is going up in your rental properties, usually on an annual basis, usually for a small fee, to inspect it to make sure it's habitable. So had this individual purchased these homes and kept the tenants in there, now obviously, with me and my team, we would have done our due diligence to not even get it to that point. But if the city inspected it and it was flagged, then that is more immediate expenses that the landlord would now have to take care of so that the city would green tag it. Okay. So I'm trying to paint a picture for you that it is essential to not only have a team, but also to have the right plan. Okay. And I mean, my book is like under $10 and you can read it in an hour. Okay. And you can also go back to earlier episodes of this podcast because you guys, it is essential. Now, this person, had they moved forward with this deal, would have had $1 million, $1 million plus in debt, okay, from the purchase of these properties, plus whatever they were going to borrow for the rehab, okay? And that would have accumulated in, let's say it took 45 days to close, without a plan. You guys, this is why I am so passionate about this. Like, I feel like I was able to save this individual from some serious trouble, okay? And that's why people reach out to realtors, right? And brokers like myself, because we are your guide. We are absolutely your guide to help you not make these mistakes that we've seen. I've seen clients make mistakes like this before, even when I told them not to, right? Even when I told them that let me rephrase it because I can't tell anybody not to do anything, but I can strongly recommend, and ultimately the decision is theirs. Okay. Now, had this individual come back and say, well, Courtney, I see what you're saying. Maybe I don't do all 4 homes at the same time. Maybe I just do one. Great. You still need a good team. You need to build a good team because, I don't know. I'm thinking electrical. Oh, I didn't even mention AC. Like, I don't even know if there was AC in those units. But like all of those expenses, they add up really quickly. And if you're talking about an extra $150K per unit, oh my gosh, I would have been crushed for this person. So at the end of the day, I wrapped up this conversation by saying, number one, I don't recommend that you purchase these homes, but if you do, here's what you would want to do. Okay. And I put that in writing, y'all. Y'all know me by now. And secondly, I said, I think you need to tighten up your game. Now, it was very kind. It was similar to the way I'm telling you right now. But it's serious, you guys. It is very, very serious. And so, I haven't talked to this person. I may have upset them, but here it is. Clear is kind. I heard somebody say that in a meeting a few weeks ago. Clear is kind. I was very clear. And I, as a matter of fact, and this is just kind of how I am, I was not emotional at all. Ultimately, the decision was this person's decision to make. Only this person could make that decision. And as the real estate professional, right, with fiduciary duties, I'm going to be clear. And I am going to be straightforward, because what I don't want to happen is I don't want them or any of you listening to make these mistakes in investing in real estate that are 1000% avoidable, especially if you have the right team. So this is part 1 to investing in real estate in 2024. And what it's not is something to just jump into lightheartedly without a plan. And what it is a fantastic opportunity once you get all your ducks in a row, right? Your plan solidified, you counted the cost, right? You have exit strategies. Then you do have an amazing opportunity to not only build wealth, to minimize your tax liability, but also provide fantastic housing to a fantastic tenant. So if you will join me next week, we'll pick up part 2 of investing in real estate in 2024 and what that looks like. I hope this is helpful. Join me again next week for another episode of Millennial versus Machine. Take care.